Introverted man here. We don't have much time, my friends. In the year 2035, the world will be at a time of rest because the end times will happen. And we can rest assured that this will happen according to one guy that posted a timeline of the end times on Facebook. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he has a YouTube channel that I'm going to be responding to a video from that channel of. And I think it's important to have some context of what sort of person would make some insane claims like he's about to make about atheists being on the hook. I just want to say, hey, yeah, sure, I'll be 65. I'm 66. Well, I'll be old. You know, I'll be in my 60s. And you know what's going to happen? Nothing. The same thing that's happened every other time somebody has claimed that the world was going to end. But he figured it out by doing math. Oh, yeah, he used math because nobody's ever tried that. He added up all these dates in the Bible that are completely incoherent and don't make any sense. And it's just decided. Even though it does say in the Bible nobody actually knows the date, he does. Oh, also, there's 0 likes and 0 followers on his Facebook page. Oh, he also has a web forum, which is mostly him posting. I think that he got a bot to post a biblical message every day for him. But other than that, it's been him and mostly him, as far as I can tell, and a few other people saying stuff now and again. But pretty much it's very dead of a website. Now, numbers don't mean anything. Just because you only have 281 subscribers, that doesn't mean you're right or wrong. The amount of people that view your content doesn't mean anything. But I think that this is really hey, we're a small church and this is one guy that's doing a YouTube channel because, you know, he can and he wants to and other reasons. But it's pretty much all him. He's running the Facebook, he's running that forum, and he's running this YouTube. And I'm wagering to guess that he's the pastor or somebody important in that church. What kind of church? Oh, it's a cult church. Oh yeah, it's a Jehovah's Watchman church. So, oh yeah, we're in that zone, my friends. We're in that zone. And all of that is very important because of what he's going to say in this video. Normally, I would leave it alone, but I just had to look. I had to look. You know, I just was like, I don't know. You know, I don't know. Who is this person? You know, who is this BibleUnited? Because they're saying stuff about atheists. So, you know, I want to know a little bit about them before I go into it. And, you know, here's his biblical timeline. Yeah. Okay. Sure. And this is from his forum. Adam, 3,966. Then the flood. Then the tower. Then Abraham. Then then there was, and then all this stuff happens. I don't know how you fit the rest of the history in there, but then you get to 2035, and that's the end of it. That's it. That's it. We're done. So he was able to prove. I mean, this in itself is worth doing a video on. Forget even the video. I could just spend hours talking about this. He was able to prove that Adam's first year was 3966 BCE. He was able to prove that. Sure. And the Tower of Babel occurred in 2209. He was able to prove that somehow. And that plague was born, blah, 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 and then all these things, and then Jesus' sacrifice was in 31 CE. He was able to figure all this out, you know. He's just that smart. He's just real smart. So if you want to check it out and do something with it more than just laughing at it, I don't know what really you could do, but yeah, go for it. And yeah, his Facebook page, just just to show you, there it is, zero likes, zero followers. It's just the end times is at hand. What's interesting is like here's all these dates of different end times that people have said. So why does he think he gets it right? Because they're close to his version? I don't know. Anyways, so he made a video, and I really should get to his video because we, atheists and agnostics, I'm always left out of these things. I'm a skeptic. I rarely get mentioned. But I am an atheist and agnostic and a skeptic, so I guess technically it's mentioning me, but also technically it's not. So just mention skeptics. We're not off the hook. What are we on the hook for? Let's find out.
Dear atheists and agnostic, let's start by saying just because people might have interpreted the Bible a certain way over centuries or millennia and then move the goalposts after scientific discovery, that says nothing of biblical errancy. It only says something about the humanistic, narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah, just because people have completely gotten the Bible wrong and what it says wrong, that doesn't mean that the Bible is wrong. That just means that people are wrong. The Bible is also wrong, though. So it could be both.
Why do atheists hold creationism to a different standard of discovery than science?
Loaded question is loaded. So let me unpack this. This assumes that atheists hold this idea to a different standard in the first place. Why do you think that we are doing this? I don't know. Maybe somebody somewhere does that, but certainly not all. And I don't even know if it's many or what the number would be. In fact, I challenge you to produce one actual example of this really happening from a well-known atheist that isn't just somebody that you hired to pretend to be an atheist like we did last video. No, I didn't do that. Like I covered last video. Whatever. I don't believe that this is a thing that happens. We hold all the things, ideally, I would hope, to the same standards. I don't know for sure. I don't know. I can only speak for myself. I can't say what other people's standards are. I could guess, and I'd probably guess right. I've got Captive Disc and B.S. Lewis, and I could guess that their standard would be X, whatever that looks like, however they want to frame that, and that standard would be applied to everything. But I might guess wrong. I don't know. Rusher Swift in the house. No idea who that is. But I would speculate, that we probably hold things to the same standards. No, fair enough. Not everything is held to the same standard. And yeah, depending on what it is, there might be a really good reason for it. So, when I sit in my chair, the standard that I hold that I'm assuming that my share isn't going to completely collapse on me is really low. My share has been stable for I don't know how long now. And, it is getting kind of old and it's kind of leaning to the right a little bit. And, it's not doing as well as it used to. So maybe it's time to get a new one, but it services me. And, one day when I sit in it, I might fall backwards and then that will be the end of that share. Now, hopefully I will replace it before that happens. Now that I've noticed that it's leaning back and to the right, I'm not going. Okay. But the point is, I hold that to kind of a low standard. But if it's something that I need to get injected into my blood, I'm going to hold that to a higher standard. I'm going to want to know something about that. And there are pretty high standards for things that get injected into your blood, say at a doctor's office. You go to the ER and their standards are pretty high for a number of reasons. And there's things in place to check and recheck those standards. So if something did happen to me in the hospital, they're liable for it financially and ethically. And it's going to make the newspaper. Maybe there's going to be lawyers, careers could be on the line, etc. So there's a standard that they hold that to. And so I could just trust that system, or I could ask questions, or I could do both. And so my standard's a little bit perhaps higher because the risk is personal to me. The risk of the share falling apart or me falling out of it, it's pretty low. And even if it happens, it'll probably be fine. I've fallen off of my share a couple times, whatever. Could it hurt me? Yeah. But, it's just it's a evaluation of what, you want to do or what you don't want to do. Yesterday it rained pretty well, and, the person in front of me drove in the middle of the street because the side of the street was basically a giant lake. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do what they're doing because, yeah, maybe I could make it through this giant lake of water, but why risk it? The standard that they're setting seems pretty decent to me, so I'm going to follow them. And their car seemed to do okay. And, and then there was another car in front of them and they were doing the same thing. So I'm like, okay, if everybody's jumping off a bridge, maybe they know something I don't. Maybe I should look over the bridge. Maybe there's trampolines or mattresses down there, or a really deep lake, or maybe they're running from something. I mean, there might be something going on that's causing them to do this. So our standards might indeed change. But ideally, we have a standard. In this case, we're talking about how do we decide if something is true or not. Science versus, in this case, creationism. Let's see. Produces results, been adequately tested over and over again, can actually be tested, creates models, has peer review, and is valid and sound, has empirical evidence to investigate, plenty of information about it, people that understand it, various fields. It's a pretty big subject. It's not just any one thing. So yeah, that I think I could trust that. Now, creationism, on the other hand, is faith. That's it. So on the one hand, I have something that I can demonstrate, I can test, I can probe, I can get explained to me. I can explain it to others. I can understand it. It's valid. It's sound. It's demonstrably demonstratable. And on the other hand, I have faith. I think I'm just going to go with science. Just, because I can actually see what's going on there. But I can't see anything about just faith. Anyone can have a faith in any sort of creationism at all. How do you know that this didn't just pop into existence right now? How do you know that? God could have done it, right? If there's a God, what prevents God from merely winking this into or out of? Oh, look, there it goes. God winked it out of existence. How do you know that God didn't do that? You might say, oh, but it's over there. You don't know that it's over there. If there's a God, then everything is permitted and permissible. And thus, you could never say for sure that something that you think a human created was actually a human. For all you know, it could be God that did it. Yeah. God might have made this little chest here. Nom, nom, nom. It's all right. Hey, I want to be in the video. Can I be in the video? No. Oh, well, I mean, you are in the video. Okay. Hello, everybody. Who's that? It's Thomas Rutledge and Vanessa Fajay. Hello. Hello, people. Hi. Put them on the screen. Okay, hold on. Let me do that. All right. Hello and hello. Okay, so I blinked their name. You can't possibly see that. You have to pause it to see what they said. Okay, anyways. So God could have made this. You wouldn't know. There'd be no way to know that wasn't from God rather than humans. In fact, this whole house, God made it. Yeah, why not? What's to say that God didn't make it? In fact, everything around you right now in your entire field of view, no matter where you look, was made by God. Even if you thought it was humans, maybe you're like, oh, but I watched them make my car. Like I went to the factory and I watched them. No. That was actually a hallucination given to you by the demons that didn't want you to know that God made that car. Yeah, I've seen videos out there of how it's made. Those are all just tricks from the devil, trying to trick you into thinking that humans make chocolate. We can't make chocolate. God makes chocolate. God does everything. Why not? Because if you have magic, then there's literally nothing that you couldn't say is from magic. But when you're bound to reality, which is what science endeavors to try to study and understand, you don't have magic. And you can't just go, look at the trees, as if that's proof of anything other than there's a fucking tree. Because there's an explanation to the tree. And there's an explanation to the building that I'm in. And the explanations are different. So I can understand all of that and demonstrate it and test it and verify it, and other people can do, and we call that activity science. And on the other hand, you have faith. So why do I have a different standard? I don't have a different standard. I have the same standard for both things. I need empirical evidence, repeatable tests, or a valid and sound argument. I get that with science. I don't get that with faith.
Lord Kelvin in 1900 said, and I quote, "There is nothing new to be discovered in physics now. All that remains is more and more precise measurement." His assumptions were wrong. Does that mean all science fails?
No, because science is updated with new information and new data all the time. And science isn't authority driven. It doesn't matter what one person or even a group of people or even a lot of people say or think, because that's not how science functions.
At one time, it was believed the earth was flat. The idea that continents did not move. The notion that all matter is composed of 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water.
And everything was fine until the Fire Nation attacked. And only the Avatar, master of all 4 elements, could bring peace and harmony. No, don't go back to the video.
Isaac Newton believed the Earth pulled objects toward it rather than the space around large objects, a bending space as relativity proposes.
I'm not sure that you got that right. But I mean, he was close. It's actually the apple and the earth are pulling each other towards each other, but the mass of the earth is greater than the mass of the apple. In fact, everything is pulling everything towards it all the time, but whatever has most of the mass wins. But he couldn't know that back then, so he made a good guess, and he made that guess a little bit better, and that has been revised and tested over and over again. No idea what your point is.
So what's changed? Nothing in the universe around us has changed. The scientific method insists that truth is not the acceptance of past dead facts, but the
No, it doesn't say that. Where does it say that? You said that it says a thing that it doesn't say. Please don't do that. I'm sure he's not going to be wrong about anything he says from this point moving forward, though, right?
infinite journey of discovery. The biblical text is no different and should not be
The biblical text is very different than science.
held to a different standard than science.
What? So again, make predictions, models, results, data, evidence, valid and sound arguments. Does the Bible have any of that? The Bible has a handful, and I do mean a handful. One of these days, I really should go and find all the actual locations that are real. I'm sure somebody's already done it, and it's not going to be that impressive a list, of actual real places that actually existed. And they're mentioned in the Bible because, well, where would you want to set your story in? Well, you'd want to set it somewhere in a place that people know about. So, just offhand, maybe you would pick New York. New York is iconic. There's many landmarks that are readily identifiable to people that have never been to New York because New York's been depicted a lot of times in a lot of places, and so it kind of got into our brains of, hey, that's New York. I know that. Hey, Statue of Liberty, I know that. So it might be useful to put your story in New York. Now, you start off with a normal person. Yeah, in fact, let's make him a young man. A very smart genius of a man. So he's not truly identifiable. He's kind of an oddball, but we can kind of relate to him because other than being a genius, he's got problems. People make fun of him. He's kind of a klutz, and and then one day he's he's even into photography of all things. He's a real nerd, this guy, and he's taking pictures, and he gets bitten by a radioactive or later on genetically altered lobster. And because of that, he turns into Lobster Man. And then he's able to swim through the streets of New York using his lobster powers. And he stops crying with his pincers. And, it's really famous. They make movies on him. There's some disputes about who owns the property of Lobster Man. So that, one big giant company has to pay the other big giant company, and they have to buy them out, and they probably are going to buy up everything, and soon they're going to own everybody and everything. All hail Mickey. All hail non-related. I mean, Icky is what I said there. I said all hail Icky. I was just pretending because that would be ludicrous to suggest that would ever really happen. This is all a fictional story that I'm coming up with, and nothing like this appears in real life, not even a little bit. So I'm just saying, like that, But if you're gonna make up a story, you're gonna have some real locations. But other than that, there's not a damn thing that you can verify happening in the Bible. There isn't any event that you can say that really happened. And I would challenge somebody to show me that I'm wrong on that, because I like switching the burden of proof. Also, I literally, I just don't believe that there is anything that we could verify. Now, there should be, for example, during one important event in the Bible, the sky goes dark and there's an earthquake. Now, these events are pretty big events. In our day and age, we would say that, well, there's an earthquake, and then there's a solar eclipse. But solar eclipses back then were like, oh my God, that's a big sign, and people are going to notice it and write about it. And then if there's an earthquake and a solar eclipse, lots of people are going to notice that and say something about it. And you know how many writings we have about it? Just one from the Bible, and nowhere else. No other person mentions it at all, almost as if those events didn't happen. When they would have noticed, and they definitely would have recorded it, and they do record other social events of their time, and they would have been around when that would have or should have happened. So, no historian before, during, or after comments on these events until the events are legendary. And they're told by other people, and so the comment is, "Hey, people believe that happened." Not, "Yes, it really happened, and I saw it, but I heard that people think that it happened." And maybe you have at least one guy that perhaps was a giant portion of his writings were forged, because we don't have the truth, so we have to actively lie in order to make it seem like he had a deep respect for Christianity, even though he was a Jewish person until his death. But anyways, you can't find, I don't think, a single event in the Bible that actually really happened, and there's no way to prove any of it. On the other hand, there's plenty of ways to prove that those things didn't happen and couldn't happen. For example, in your timeline that I brought up, Adam didn't live however many years ago that you said Adam lived, because there wasn't an Adam and there wasn't an Eve. There were no real people named these things until the story was widespread enough for people to decide, hey, I like that name, I'll name my kid that. I wonder who the first person was named Adam or Eve. Somebody somewhere was the first person named that, but who knows if we could find that individual. And that's in written history, which we have, stretching back farther than 4,000 some odd years, which you said is where an Adam started. So that's a problem for actual history, so that we know that time didn't start 4,000, 5,000, or 6,000 years ago, and we know that humans roamed the earth for far, far longer than that time. So we know that stuff didn't happen. Then, of course, the global flood. Well, clearly they mean local flood, but it was translated as global. But we know that such an event is impossible and cannot and does not happen and would never happen. Period. End of story. We know that a bottleneck of humans and animals would have ended the species completely. Also, if there had been a worldwide flood, that would be the end of everything, period, because we wouldn't have anything to eat, because fish would all be dead, and so would all the plants and many, if not all, the bugs, and the birds would shortly follow, and we would soon run out of food because, we'd be eating and or fucking everything in sight in a desperate bid to try to survive a little bit longer, and we would just die out from starvation and or just the fact that our genetic traits were so weak that we couldn't continue as a species. So that didn't happen either. Oh, also Noah and Moses are definitely made up, and probably Abraham too. And Exodus probably never happened, and in fact, there's no evidence that it did happen, and actually evidence against it happening. And the Hebrews probably weren't Egyptian slaves at all, and that didn't happen. So, was there ever a Jesus? Nope. At least there doesn't need to be. Now, for whatever reason, there's still debate about, well, there could be a historical Jesus. I'm like, yeah, but where? Where's this dude? Because the only writings we have about Jesus are of a mythical man that couldn't exist because magic's not real. So Jesus didn't exist. And if you want to argue that, well, maybe there was a guy named Jesus, yeah, maybe, but who cares? And the thing is, you don't need a Jesus to start Christianity. In fact, you don't even need the name disciples. None of them had to have anything to do with it. Now, maybe there happened to be somebody named Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, and they were famous or somewhat famous people that people would have known of during that day. Maybe not the level of Tyler Swift or Ricky Gervais, but maybe like a lower level B celebrity type name, that you recognize because you're familiar with their work, but they're not super mega famous. Like, Bob Odenkirk. Yeah, he's Better Call Saul guy. He's somewhat well known, but not maybe as well known as, like Tom Cruise or something. So you introduce these characters and you say that they were the disciples because people would recognize those names, or if not directly recognize the names, they'd be like, yeah, I know I've heard of somebody like that. They're really important. Like, why are they really important? Well, because they were the disciples of this guy called Jesus. And the whole story could be made up from scratch. And that's what I think. I think that the entire New Testament, somebody somewhere invented that story. Not all at once, but somebody started it. Somebody said, here's a thing that happened. And then that story got added onto, and other people added onto it until they said, okay, this is the core story. And that story was told in many places because it was a really interesting story and it was shared around. And then eventually somebody's like, hey, why don't we pay somebody to write this down? And then they did that. But that was years later, after the events had supposedly happened, which they didn't. And why did nobody question them? Because there wasn't anything to question. It was just another group of people going around saying stuff that happened that didn't happen. And that was very commonplace. There was tons and tons of crazy-ass beliefs during those times. Thankfully, we live in a modern era where nobody believes in nonsense. Right, people still believe in all sorts of nonsense. And depending on where you go, you'll find lots of these people. Go to a crystal store, a store that sells crystals. The people selling those crystals, they might have some wacky beliefs. And the people buying the crystals probably have some wacky beliefs. I keep these crystals around me while I sleep because they protect me. From what? Rolling over? And because if you roll over, then you'll get stabbed by the rock and get woken up? Like, And he said people used to believe the earth is flat. People still believe that. Why? Bible! That's why! Anyways, back to the video. I'm ranting too long. No, I'm not. Keep ranting! No, it's back to the video.
Claiming nothing created the universe is no different than claiming something did. Both are the beginning of hypothesis.
All right. Oh, hey, BibleUnited, who I said wasn't going to listen to my short video rant and wasn't going to respond, has proven me wrong. Yay! I love being proven wrong. He is listening. Okay, let me go back, because that was rather a long rant before it was finished on his video, wasn't it? But let me go back a little bit and replay that, because that's important what he says here.
The biblical text is no different and should not be held to a different standard than science. Claiming nothing created the universe is no different than claiming something did. Both are...
Okay. So, nowhere that I know of in science does anybody claim nothing created the universe. And I would challenge you, since you're here listening, Bible United, prove me wrong. Show me a actual scientific published paper that says that the universe was made from and or by nothing and or created by nothing. Show me one actual peer-reviewed paper. One. Can't do it. You won't do it, and I know you won't, because no scientist ever has said that. Period. You know who does claim that the universe came from nothing? You guys. You do. That's you, not us. We don't make that claim. The only person that gets close to saying that the universe came from nothing is good old Lawrence Krauss. He wrote a book, not a scientific paper, a book called A Universe from Nothing. And if you bother to read a book other than the Bible, you would find out that by nothing, he doesn't actually mean nothing, and that it was just a gimmick to sell the book. So even he isn't arguing that nothing made the universe, and nobody actually does. That's a scientist. Unless they're a creationist, in which case they will say nothing. That's where the universe came from. Your God made it from what? Did God make it from God? Or did God make it from stuff that was already around that wasn't God? Or did God make it from nothing? Oh, right. God supposedly made it from nothing. So that's a you claim, not a scientific claim. And no scientist ever, I don't think, show me that I'm wrong, has ever said that it comes from nothing. So put up Bible United, and we note that he went very quiet in chat after announcing that he's listening to my responding to him live right now, as I'm challenging him right now to do this thing. You made a claim that science claims that the universe came from nothing. Put up or shut up. No scientist has said this. That's a you guys claim, not a us guys claim. In fact, there is no us guys as far as atheists, agnostics, or skeptics go. It's just that there's people that happen to be atheists, agnostic, and skeptics. And the thing is, yeah, we all don't have a problem with science, broadly speaking. None of us do, because it doesn't negate our view of reality, unlike it would negate your view of reality. See, science studies reality. Bible tells you what reality is. Science hasn't decided, your Bible has. You've decided that these things that your Bible says are true. Science says, let's figure out what's true. The Bible says, this is how it happened. Science says, let's find out how it happened. The Bible gets everything at every possible level wrong. Science, when it does get something wrong, is corrected by the methodology of science. Whereas when you get something wrong in the Bible, you just double down and say that you're right about it anyways, or you claim, well, you'll be sorry when you die because then something terrible and horrible will happen to you. Or you can make an insane claim like in a few years that the world will end based on math that I did that other people have also done in the past that has always turned out to be wrong every single time. A guy in 1999 thought that 2000 was it. He actually did something that was pretty damn gutsy. He sold everything, gave everything else away. And he stood in New York Square with just the clothes on his back and nothing else to his name as the countdown happened. And you know what happened? Nothing. And he stood there. And you could see on his face that he was devastated that the earth didn't end because he didn't know what the hell to do now. Later on, he said, oh, well, I got the calculation wrong. And of course, people that have claimed that the world will end will always say, well, we got the number wrong because whatever. Mormons used to do this a lot. Jehovah's Witnesses do this a lot, where they'll say, well, the church, they didn't behave themselves, so that's why the date was wrong. And they'll say, hey, look, you thought the world was going to end, but we did so well that God's decided to give us a little bit more time. So you can always keep moving that date further, moving it back so that you never have to actually prove it. No one claims the universe came from nothing that is a legitimate scientist. Only creationists who might have once been a scientist would make that claim. We don't. I don't even know what nothing is, or if it is a thing or could be. In fact, what the hell is nothing? Are there rules to nothing? I don't know. If there's rules, then it's not really nothing, is it? But it's funny, very funny to me, that you've made this typical claim that we have seen lots and lots of creationists make, that science says the universe came from nothing when science says no such thing in the car. So, and again, worth pointing out, he was in chat listening, and lots of people have typed in many, many things, yet he has typed nothing in response to my challenge. In fact, I'm so certain that he will not produce a single scientific peer-reviewed paper that said that where we have a non-creationist. I guess you can find a creationist scientist saying it, but I'll expose that. A non-creationist scientist that's saying that the universe came from nothing. I think that a creationist scientist would say that God made the universe out of nothing. You could probably find a paper that says that. Of course, the only peer-reviewed version of that you would hope to find would be from other creationists. And of course, it wouldn't be a paper because it would be a blog post, because they don't write peer-reviewed papers. And if I'm wrong and you can demonstrate that I'm wrong, I'll offer $4,000 to a charity of your choice. $6,000. That's the $7,000. Doesn't matter. You won't do it. In fact, everybody could pull all their money together. You still won't do it because you can't do it because it doesn't exist. That's how wrong we know that you are. So to say that you're a liar or completely misinformed, I'm not sure which. But a simple Google search would have revealed how wrong you are about this idea. That no, science doesn't say the universe came from nothing. This is a creationist claim. The other claim that creationists make is that God made the universe. They're both under the same scrutiny, by the way. Because I know that you cannot find a peer-reviewed published paper that says God made the universe either. The only sort of paper that you would find would again be a blog post at best by somebody that believes that God made the universe, and that wouldn't be scientific, that would be faith-based. Because God is not a scientific thing. It is not an idea like that. It is an object of the mind that we humans invented long, long ago and has evolved throughout time and civilization with all of us. You have people that believe in God writing that God did this, that, and the other, but you have no proof that God even is a thing in the first place. Zero. Zip. Zilch. So, what do you do instead? You pretend that science is at the level of your silly, nonsensical stories that are completely made up and wrong about, like I said, everything that you could be wrong about. You believe those stories are true. We don't. Why? Because we can use science on your stories to reveal that they're not true. But meanwhile, you live in the land of make-believe and you can never, ever, ever show that any of your stuff is actually real. We're holding it to the same standards. We have evidence. You don't. Same standard. I want evidence. You don't have it. We do. So you are on the hook. And you supposedly were listening, but I bet right now you're desperately searching for that scientific paper, and you will never, ever find it because it doesn't exist. And you know that. Or maybe you will find that out very soon. You con man, you. Despicable. I'm tired of people lying about science. Sick of it. All right, let's get back to the lying person and see what else he gets wrong.
Are the beginning of hypothesis. In science, humans can constantly move the goalposts, and that is normal.
Wrong. In religion, people move the goalposts. Science doesn't do that. So, fuck you. I'm just pissed. I'm just pissed at this point. Seriously, you already lied to us. Now you're just saying things that are your guys' problem, not science's problem. So, just no to that. I don't know of a better response than to say that's pure, unadulterated bullshit. And I don't like that. I'm not okay with that. You need to be honest and straightforward. If you have any hope of convincing us of anything, this tactic that you're taking is only going to make more of us. So keep going. You're doing our job for us. You're deconverting people because of your stupidity. But then again, I guess when I'm 60, I'll find out if I'm wrong, because that's totally when the world's going to end, right?
So why is creationism held to a different standard than
it's not
non-creationism as regards the scientific method? Assumption is the enemy of truth.
No, faith is the enemy of truth. But yes, I guess that would be assumption as well. Faith doesn't have fact. When you have faith, you don't need facts. You don't care. The facts don't matter because you have faith. But when you have fact, you don't need faith at all because you have fact. You don't have it. Uh-oh, I've got a door knock. Hold on. Yay for live video! Anyways, what was I ranting about? All right, this guy's completely wrong. You were polite, DM. I have 4 less patience for these tools. Yeah, I mean, saying fuck you and things like that. I mean, look, I don't know the guy, but I'm tired of seeing the same thing. It's just it is the same thing over and over again. It's just another person doing what we've seen a million times. And it's not like it's hard to find out before you make a video, say, hey, Google, what's going on? Do scientists believe the world came from nothing? Even though ChatGPT will get things a lot wrong and will make up stuff and seem like it's right, at least it's something. But yes, assumption is faith, and faith is assumption. So yeah, sure, that's the enemy of reason and logic and facts. And like I said, if you have facts, you don't need faith at all, not even a little.
If you assume cellular information spontaneously formed and was not created, you make an assumption.
I suppose so, but nobody says that. That's not an idea that anybody has, except for creationists who don't understand biological evolution. They don't want to understand it. I think that's pretty damn crystal clear, because I've heard creationists be debated, and it seems that time and again they're told what really evolution is, but they walk away not understanding anyways, as if they didn't hear anything. Now, maybe it's not fair to compare one person to an entire group of people, but after a while, you start to think, hey, yeah, maybe they're all getting this wrong in the same way and for the same reasons. Because you believe that God created from dirt. So minerals? Did God make Adam out of minerals? Sounds like he's making things out of rocks to me. And then because God's weird, he made Eve from a bone of Adam, which means she's a genetic clone of Adam. I don't know why God did that. In fact, I don't know why God bothered with the dirt at all when God already winked the universe into existence from nothing. So why didn't God just do that for Adam and Eve? Because the story is a combination of stories, of mythos that have already been around at that time when that creation story was made. And we can see similar stories in other places. And the idea of a golem being made from mud and then given a magic spell to bring it to life was a Jewish, and still is, a Jewish folklore. That's Adam. Adam's a golem brought to life by magic. That's why it's in there. Because Jewish people believed in golems. It was a familiar mythos, so they put it in the story. God didn't actually do that because there isn't a God to do that. Or at least it's not your God.
I mean, we can't even currently show that information form the proteins that make up the complexity of single cells. Entropy is the enemy of spontaneous life.
So funny, I just listened to a very long conversation where, or something, was it Aaron Raw? Something, now I can't. But I listened to a conversation where they were talking about entropy and how this one person that happened to be a Jewish scientist, I think this was from Aaron Ra that brought it up, that wrote a really good book, I think they also made some papers about it, where they proved that entropy actually creates life. That entropy, that the life is because of entropy. It's like an unavoidable consequence of it. Now I'd have to go find their name and all that, and I'll link it in the description and put it as a pinned comment so you can know what the hell I'm talking about if you're not sure offhand. But yeah, so somebody remind me about that. So he's just getting everything wrong again. Actually, you know what? Let's look. Entropy causes life. I bet we could find that. Let's see. MIT physicist. Okay, so this is lately as well. Entropy drives. Okay, so all you look. This wasn't that hard to do. Again, this guy doesn't know how to, like, I don't know, look anything up online. So here's, I googled entropy causes life. Here's a magazine, so you could put a little bit of skepticism there because it's not a paper. It's just from some magazine, and this dude that's talking about it and whatever, and he's saying that that's what it is. Let's go back to Google, see what else is going on there. There's other articles on it. Here's New Scientist talking about it. There's Scientific American talking about the same guy. Here's another thing. I mean, it's like, so there's more than one person that, has thought it. Okay, Sean Carroll talked about it. So look, you don't have any excuse for why you shouldn't know that actually the response is not that. And well, I don't understand entropy. Well, how does that work? Well, look it up, man. Read something other than the Bible for a change. Just an idea.
Such as the first cell, let alone events such as the Cambrian explosion.
Okay, so again, creationists don't understand what the first cell is, nor do they understand biological evolution at all, or the Cambrian explosion even a little bit. So the first cell, you don't know what the hell the first cell is. You don't. You know how I know that you don't? Because you don't understand science. How do I know that? Because you said what you said. Okay? The first cell, guess what? We don't even know what the hell that one is. Yeah, we don't know. How the hell are you going to know when we don't know? Now, maybe somebody somewhere has some ideas about it, but if you mean the cells that we have today, no. If you mean the first cell, well, then whatever the hell that is going to be very, very, very simple comparative to cells that we have today. But complexity is not a hallmark of design. Simplicity is. So, you know, this TV is real thin, right? Why? Why is my TV thin? Didn't they used to be really, really thick? What happened? Why did they get so thin? How did that happen? Why don't we have them? I mean, shouldn't they be super mega thick? So why? Oh, look at this. This is a phone? Man, that's really thin and small. How did that happen? Didn't phones used to sit on our desks and be rather large? How did this happen? I guess the complexity of the phone must mean that God made this phone. That's how stupid this idea is that you're presenting. The fact is, we make things more and more simple. The less components they can put in this, the better their profit margin. Same thing for the TV. This has less components than the bigger ones. Well, it might actually have more in terms of circuitry, but overall less. There's less things to go wrong, in other words, is what I'm trying to get at. And we make them smaller and we make them more efficient because efficiency is the driving mark of actual design. Whereas the human body, cells, whatever, are insanely complex for needless reasons. There's no, and your God, you can make it however you want, I guess, but why would you make it in a way that doesn't align with our idea of how to identify when something is made? And if you're going to make it and try to hint at us that you're God, I don't know, why not just write God was here on it? Or how's this? Just be around. Just talk to us. Hi, God. How's it going? Pretty good. That would be nice. You know, God should be like, hi. Oh, yeah. Would you not sneak up on me like that? You know. But no, God has to stay hidden because God's really scared of us or some shit. Maybe because we killed him at that one time or something. I don't know.
Time is an enemy of spontaneous life. Assumptions fall flat when recognizing the Bible as a form of communication.
Bible's a form of communication. Let's just see where this insanity goes.
Written word is communication. In communication, only the speaker can define their meaning, just as only the universe can define its reality. Narcissism, or personal truthers, believe one can interpret others' words however they wish.
You mean like interpreting the Bible, which are not your words, in such a way that you get to prove when the end of the world is happening? So I guess you're a narcissist then. Now, whether you're a narcissist or not, you could still be right. You're not right. And the fact that you are a narcissist is just a bonus.
Without regard for the original intent.
And what methodology would you use to determine the original intent of any given writing? Let's step away from the Bible for a moment because my brain hurts and I can't take too much more of this nonsense. And talk about original intent for a moment, shall we? And I will use my favorite poem, The Tiger by William Blake, to do this. Oh yeah, we're doing this. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what mortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? What is William Blake's original intent in writing that? Did he write it to get money? To get famous? To get laid? Did he write it to impress somebody? Did he write it because he was bored? Because he got high? Did he write it because God told him to? Did he write it because time-traveling aliens told him to? Did he write it because somebody was holding a gun to his head saying, write me a poem right now? Did he write it for, I don't know what the hell his original intent is. How would I possibly figure out what his original intent is by just reading the words that he wrote? Unless Blake says, hey guys, this is why I'm writing this, I don't fucking know. So I'm interested to find out your methodology and how you go about determining what the original intent of anything is at all, even a little. But that's okay. You didn't respond to my other challenge, and you're not going to respond to that, although you are listening. So you were listening at some point, but he's probably given up by now. I mean, I've been doing this an hour, so I wouldn't blame him. A little bit more, then I'll be done for now. We'll do part 2, I guess. But it's just, just a little bit more. It's just I just need some more pain before I stop.
Just as flat earthers disregard scientific proofs, an atheist view asserts personal ideology of intent to any given statement in Scripture.
Prove that. Prove that statement is true. Prove that I, as an atheist, do what you just said that I do. Go on. I'll wait. Let's see. Let's see. I don't know. My brain is give me a very random Bible verse. All right, here we go. Thanks, chatgpt. All right, Ecclesiastes 10:1. As dead flies give perfume a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. All right. So here's a random verse that ChatGPT came up for me. I said, hey, ChatGPT, do this thing. And it did. And just to prove that I did that, see, here's me saying, give me a very random Bible verse. And here it's doing that. And so then I'm putting it here. And so how do I view this? So what did you say that I was going to do with this? I was going to do what with it? Let me just rewind it and make sure that I get your claim about what I'm going to do with this verse before I do or don't do it. Okay, hold on.
For the original intent. Just as flat earthers disregard scientific proofs, an atheist view asserts personal ideology of intent to any given statement in Scripture.
A personal view of intent to any given Scripture. Okay, so I am going to assign a personal view or intent to this scripture. Nope. I'm not. Yeah. I have no idea what view to give this scripture or any intent. I don't know these things. I don't ascribe these things to this verse. Now, if you want me to talk about it, sure. Seems like poetry to me. Now, I love poetry. I just was talking about William Blake. So, dead fly gives a bad smell. So, a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. So, a small mistake can outweigh the fact that you're very smart and very honorable. And that is equivalent to that a dead fly, which is something nasty and vile, will make a otherwise good smelling perfume smell bad. So this is an analogy, okay? And it is using poetic imagery to create analogy. Is that giving a personal intent to it? Or is that critical analysis? I'm not saying why he wrote it. That would be personal intent. I'm just saying, hey, this is what I think that this verse is. I could be very wrong about that. Whatever. Cool. Now, is it interesting? I mean, it's okay as far as poetry goes. As far as analogies go, it's weird, but it works. Maybe it works better than the original language than it does in English, you know? Maybe it'd be like, just like one might step in bullshit when walking amongst the bulls. You might also step into a bunch of bullshit when walking amongst creationists. There's my version of this verse. And my personal intent for creating it is to say that creationists are full of bullshit. And then they dump that bullshit on the ground and you walk on it. Although if it dries up, then it's fine because you wouldn't actually step in it because it'd be broken into little fragments. Because when the shit hardens, you can walk on it and you'll be okay. I mean, it still is going to get in your boots probably, but not as badly as the wet shit would. Now, I don't know why I went off on that tangent. Probably because I just recently saw Angry Video Game Nerd do a thing on bullshit. It's like he'll talk about what bullshit is. Not what the actual bullshit is, but what he considers to be bullshit. And he was complaining about USB plugs. And I'm like, yeah, like the universal and universal serial plug isn't even really universal. He didn't complain about that part, though, but I did. What does any of this have to do with anything? Good question. I don't know. Sometimes I just do that. Sometimes I go off in weird tangents and rants at the end of my videos because my brain is tired. You know, just to reflect back on an inside joke that I actually performed a while back, it's as if Deconverted Man were to bring up, I don't know, that he wants B.S. Lewis to make him into Sailor Mercury / Prime / what was the other thing? I don't remember. And I'll pay you money and then email him that exact email. And B.S. Lewis thought, that's a joke, he won't do it. But then Deconverted Man actually did send him that email. And he's like, he didn't even respond. He's not giving me any attention because he doesn't want to encourage that sort of behavior from me. But little does he know, I am insane and I'll do weird things. Because I thought it was funny. Maybe he didn't. I don't know anymore. Thanks for watching. What is that analogy like? It's like a butterfly flying into a banana. You know, sometimes that happens. What's the intent of it? I don't know. Please tell me, biblical person, more about what I think, feel, and believe. I love when people do that. Yes, tell me not only what I think, feel, and believe, but all atheists without any evidence. Just keep doing that. Whee! See you in part 2. Oh, man. Whew. Man. All right. Now it's time to write B.S. Lewis a weird email.